Hey, what's going on? This is Malcolm, and I am live again in Destiny 2, coming at you with another Destiny 2 video. Um, I had a really good time on Greg's live stream today, and I am uploading some of the clips so that it can be edited. I'm trying to make more content for social media, but I'm really bad at editing, so I figured maybe I could crowdsource it with everyone on the panel. Maybe they can find clips in it that they want to repost, and yeah, kind of being a lot more chill about it, and it feels great. So part of that being chill is like I am processing the videos. They take a while to go like shrink them down because now um, with the live stream like local recordings, the videos are much larger, and so it's been taking a little bit longer to process. So, um, yeah. And one of my favorite, in Destiny 2 today, one of my favorite modifiers is available. I wish it was available in more things, but in the Vanguard Ops playlist, a daily modifier rotates. They usually have a weekly surge. It seems like there's always a darkness surge, so it's either strand or stasis. This week is strand, and then the light surge is void. You have a daily threat that changes. So today it's solar. Try to make sure that I have some solar right there. I have all three resists, but and I'm running the ionic trace build, and I'm usually doing some bounties. Um, I needed a sword. So I'm gonna pull a sword using my phone. Probably gonna do an arc sword. I mean, obviously, why not? Take a look at. Let's see. Oh yeah, I did not change my artifact mods at all. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I don't need uh, the tangles there. I can do arc here. Probably this monochromatic maestro. That seems pretty good. And that right there. Okay. So check out the subclass is pretty standard stuff. Yeah. Let's see, type sword. Let's see. Damage type arc. Okay, that's interesting. Probably not that good though. Wellspring on the sword, I guess. I think I just go for yeah, art assassin's blade. Yeah. All right, let's see what mods I have here. That's good. There's no loaders. That's fine. Arc damage and bomber. Okay. So let's go into Vanguard Ops. I've been thinking a little bit about my setup, and I am just beginning to get comfortable gaming and streaming at the same time. I do not know how to talk and play at the same time. Like when I am in something I enjoy, I kind of hone in on what's going on screen. But I'm gonna work out some of that. All right.
Guardian, we've received intel that Brakazan is supplying weapons to the Shadow.
My scions have already attempted their onslaught of Zahn's base, but I miscalculated the strength of this operation.
You miscalculated?
Yes. Do you have further questions?
Right. Let's get them free.
Trying to find a little bit of cover. Because there's like a ship out there somewhere. Oh, there we go. Toss a nade. I'm so used to using loaders, but I'm going to be switching up weapons, and I don't feel like changing every time I change weapon types. Oh, there we go. I thought I was about to die. It's like, what's going on here? Sniper over there.
I informed the Empress we had already dealt with Zahn.
All
Or
right.
at least I thought we had.
I do love the scout.
Names hold power. It is not unlikely this new Zahn is a successor who has taken up the mantle.
Regardless,
Little bitches. Oops, wrong thing. Shit's so annoying. Please stop firing at me. Oh, damn. Fuck out of here.
Thank you, Guardian. I've instructed the scions to aid you. Free the others, and you will have a formidable team to face Brakazan.
we'll take all the help we can get.
I don't know what my strength is at, but it seems kind of low as far as the regen rate. But mainly the gist of this build is to cycle between grenades and rifts. So I think both give each other energy. So when I throw my grenade, it has bolstering detonation plus the ionic trace. And I have my grenade back before I even leave my rift. See? And just toss another. And I can stay safe in my rift a little bit and help my allies. The rift just ran out. It's time to run. So it should be noted that with lightning crystals, you take extra damage from arc and stasis. So it can be a little dangerous. One of the artifact mods I'm using has added resistance whenever I collect the ionic trace, I believe. So let one of them collect it. I think I might use my chaos reach here. I'm not sure. Go. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have to get sword kills at some point. Okay. Okay, sword time. Oh, out of our sword ammo. Okay. All right. That was rather simple. Usually it's not that simple. But yeah, Chaos Reach is pretty strong. So Cold Heart gives you more ionic traces. Just, I wish it had one of the champion mods on it this season, but I mean, you can't have everything. We did have it last season, but right. All right. Some sword ammo. Let's pull this lever. I hope I have some help. There's one guy. Nice. Nova bomb. More ammo. Okay. Okay, where's that? Oh, there we go. go. Shit. Oh boy. I don't like that.
Well fought, Guardian. We've cut another head off the proverbial Hydra.
Hydra have but one head, Devon.
Not bad.
Yes, Vex Hydra do. There's an old Earth mythological creature that... never mind.
You would do well to leave your
I wonder why that sometimes
better
these don't
understand
drop with
our
extra
enemies.
perks.
I'll do
Like,
that.
'cause that is shards. Give their kudos. Oh, just one guy. All right. Arc and Scout are done. I did not finish the sword, did I? Nope. But now it's bow time. We know what time it is. Trinity Ghoul. And I like this chill clip fusion rifle. Probably would love if it had demolitionist instead of heating up. But, you know. All right.
Disgraced? She narrowly escaped the previous Vanguard operation with her life. Now the Brood questions her strength. She'll be desperate to prove herself.
Indeed.
Eliminate her before she regains her footing. Lots of movement ahead. Be ready for anything.
Get them swords in.
intense hive
All
signatures.
right,
in a
I'm gonna
facility
switch
up
off
ahead.
that. Go to my machine
Things
gun.
like this. It feels like a trap.
I'd rather keep my distance if I want to do flawless runs. I've noticed another tactic that helps a flawless run is to play a little more support. So like the Sunstar, Fallen Sunstar helmet that I'm wearing actually gives my allies ability energy as well. And then of course I'm running healing rifts. So that should keep them alive a little bit more. But
We're close now. She won't escape this time.
Retreat isn't an option for her anymore. Not with the brood doubting her. Expect the worst, Guardian. Navota has no choice but to defeat you.
That's her. That's Navota.
how do I not have any of my abilities up? That's weird. I don't know why that happened. So used to having all my abilities up. Oh God. What was that? I wonder what this guy's doing. Oh. That arc damage is doubled or tripled. I don't even know. When it's on lightning crystals, it's pretty bad. That arc stream would fucking murder you. So weird that they put her in there or something. God. Yay. Another flawless.
We're happy to send the message, Commander.
Excellent work. Return to the tower.
All right. Go ahead and upload this video.
Yo.
All right. Just got one more video to upload. I think after that, I'm going to switch to my Titan.
The Cabal sends forth its champion.
It's one of my favorite strikes. I just love Keitel. She's kind of cutthroat. I love it. You know what's funny is that I'm thinking about switching to Titan, and as good as Arc and Stasis Titan is, Strain Titan is so good, it's almost like why even switch off of it? But I do want to highlight the modifier. I don't know why I was so aggressive right there. I'm trying to be on a flawless. Like, that really could have killed me. Oh,
This is the helpless electors.
it's kind of silly of me.
Her mouth packed with red soil.
It was fun, though.
I do not grant you safe passage.
I do not grant you safe passage. I don't know. I just like her. She's cool. She's kind of direct. Just like, it's a cool ass character. I like her.
My war machine burned. She hungers for battle. Have you the same appetite? You fight well, Guardians. A shame you must pay the price for your commander's pride. Guardians, join my cabal and let our alliance armor the stars.
We work together, Kyle, but as equals, not your vassals. Which of these cabals is your champion?
All warriors rally in defense of the chosen.
Now, I don't really know the best like defensive position here. You know, it's different on different difficulty levels. Like, this is just garden variety strike, but I'm trying to remember if I did this one on Grandmaster Nightfall. I mean, one of the ways that you deal with a room like this is kind of just know the spawn points, the enemy types, you know, kind of, and how they behave. Sometimes I don't even notice that, though, and it's because people will wipe them out so fast you don't even know the spawn rotations or anything. Try to put a rift behind cover so I can heal faster. Okay, the tanks come out. Those shield guys can one-shot kill you. Like, they creep up on you like that. Ooh, the tank could have one-shot me too. Yeah, I did not want to be in the fire range of both tanks at the same time. But that's an ally, okay. See if I can toss that nade over there.
Keep working your way beneath the outer plates. According to Amanda, you'll emerge near the power relays.
Guardian, I have prepared further challenges for you. A banquet of combat to test your resolve.
The Guardians are coming for your
The
champion.
banquet of combat.
Your hospitality.
I like
My
that.
father said you were such fun. You seek to drive a knife into the heart of my tank? My troops will defend its life with theirs.
I'll take those orbs, thank you. Oh. All right. I cleared that out pretty good. Let's see. When they pick up the orb, just to spawn a bunch of dudes here. Oh, there we go. Nice. Nice. All right.
Your warriors are merciless, Commander. Are all light bearers so bloodthirsty?
My guardians do what they must. Today, they must be champions.
Yeah, I miss Lance Riddick already. I mean, I knew the new voice actor they're getting for
Hold strong.
Zavala is awesome,
One
but
final victory is all I ask.
I thought he was, to me, one of my favorites in the game, even though like the character is unliked. I really do like the actor who plays him.
Now, the final trial.
Which made me like him a little more, but also just like, indeed. I don't know. Just cool. Ooh. Man, that does not feel. I felt that. The guy just got blowed up. I don't know why I was so aggressive there. Glad the damage resistance from my super saved my life. Thank you. Think about my machine gun. Okay. Fuck you, dude. Let's go. Why am I playing so stupid? I don't know why. That should have killed me. Ugh. Just playing reckless as fuck. Oh, God. Yay. There's at least 3 times there I should have died. I don't know why I was playing so bad. I just wanted to, and I went for it, and it worked, but it shouldn't have worked. I don't know. I really should have died, but that outfit is cool. What the fuck helmet is that?
Bring a bigger tank.
Huh. I don't know where that comes from. Anyway, cool helmet. I think I'm gonna switch to my Titan. I was trying to think of like a creative build to run. But before I go, let me clear out my postmaster because that sometimes fucks me up.
Selection deleted. 3 and 3. Capital L I D E. Capital S A T. WhatsApp.
All right. I got the next video processing, and I'm going to share it with the guys.
So we begin then.
I don't know if that's going to actually work, but I think one of the things I'm realizing from the content creation is that you have to enjoy what you're doing because it is a hobby, right? Like I used to take it so seriously and be like, you got to get it done and blah, 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 whatever. I think you got to make it fun, right? Well, as soon as it stops being fun, it's over, really. Like you can't. And so it's a really interesting balancing act, right? I don't know why I keep this sniper all the time. I want to like it because it's got some interesting perks, but I don't like snipers. So why am I even trying? These must have been from earlier. How come I didn't check my postmaster for a while then? That was kind of dangerous. Although you can't really keep much in your postmaster anymore. Like you can't hold those golf balls, whatever the fuck they're called. That's not a bad roll, but that's craftable. There's probably a lesser one I can delete right here. Yeah. I can hold that one in there. Let's see, let me delete some things off my character too. Just these 1800 ones. Hold on to 1810s for now. I'm guessing the Festival of the Lost starts next Tuesday, or this upcoming Tuesday, I guess. I don't know. And let me clear up my bounties. Okay. Switch. Now, do I want to do Titan or Hunter? Honestly, I think the Hunter is probably more interesting. Yeah, I can clear that later. The Hunter has dodge exotics, right? Because lightning crystals gives you both increased abilities of all the subclasses. So one of the exotics I tried out was the speed loader pants, and so that kind of gives you like a weapon handling reload buff. We'll see. Let me check what I have. Let's see. Okay, I'm back. I am trying these speed loader slacks on my Hunter. Time dilation, distribution. Got grenades on deck. I'm thinking I should just go. I don't know. Time dilation will help me keep that buff a little longer. Okay. Ooh, oh yeah, the sprayers. Love. I have not tried that. That could be my scout. And that's the only thing though. I don't have any void. Huh. I could change that to void. That's stasis. Okay, harmonic. Just say void. Okay. Yeah, I want to get used to using this. And this stasis here is pretty awesome. Heavy. I need a sword, right? I have a sword on as we speak. Ooh, I could do that trace rifle. Oh yeah, this might be fun. All right, let's see what bounties there are. Oh, I already got these. Okay. Let me go.
Good, you're back.
I must have grabbed the bounties. That's right. That's true. I did grab them before. And let me see what I have. Okay. Yeah, I got a nice chunk of bounties. I should probably go to the lectern or whatever this is too. Okay. Getting the last video uploaded, and I am going to go for a walk after, well, about 30 minutes. Okay, I have all these. I did not know that. Let me go play then. And I need some Vanguard strikes. Let's go.
Your lecturer is Dr. Patrick Grimm. As Distinguished Teaching Professor of Philosophy at the State University of New York at Stony Brook, Dr. Grimm has provided his students with invaluable insights into issues in philosophy, artificial intelligence, theoretical biology, and other fields. Professor Grimm was awarded the university's Presidential and Chancellor's Awards for teaching excellence and was elected to the Academy of Teachers and Scholars. These lectures are titled Philosophy of Mind, Brains, Consciousness, and Thinking Machines, Part 1.
I'm Patrick Grimm, and I'll be your guide through Philosophy of Mind. The philosophy of mind represents intriguing questions regarding minds and brains that run from the mysteries of consciousness to prospects for thinking machines. There are little bits we know, a range of things we have intriguing hints about, both conceptual and scientific, and a great deal of which we remain abysmally ignorant. That's what the course is all about, some of the amazing things we do know, and the many questions that remain. Let me introduce the kinds of topics we'll be covering by starting with a handful of examples. I'll focus on 3 exhibits A, B, and C, as if this were a court case. These 3 exhibits will give something of the flavor of the explorations. The first exhibit, Exhibit A, is a series of dreams. A particular series of dreams, a particular person, at a particular time. The second exhibit, Exhibit B, is a brain, a very special brain of a very special person. The third exhibit, Exhibit C, is a piece of machinery built from plans over 150 years old. It's currently on display in London. First, the dream. The year is 1619. The 30 Years' War is continuing between the Catholic forces of the Holy Roman Empire and the Protestant princes of Northern Europe. It's the night of November 10th. The eve of the feast of St. Martin's. We're focusing on a 23-year-old Frenchman. After a solid education through his era, he's decided to see the world. He's fighting in the army of the Duke of Bavaria. It's November, and the army's wintering in the German city of Ulm. In autobiographical notes, he says he's been pondering the disunity and uncertainty of all of his knowledge. That night, he had a series of dreams, which he interpreted as a sign directly from God. What they offered was a glimpse of an all-encompassing body of knowledge, a philosophical unification of all the sciences built with the solidity of mathematics. That young soldier was René Descartes. He took his visions as a mandate to build a new kind of knowledge. He was so convinced that his dream signaled a divine endorsement of that mission that he made an extended religious pilgrimage in thanksgiving for the divine favor of his dream. In one of the dreams, Descartes saw 2 books in front of him. The first was a dictionary. It appeared to him to be of little interest and use. It was a mere collection, without internal conceptual structure or organization, and without certainty. The dictionary represented the broken fragments of the wisdom of the past. The second book was entitled Corpus Poeterum, and it contained what he saw to be a philosophical union of all science. It's interesting that he envisaged it as written in poetry. Descartes is considered the foremost of the rationalists. But in describing his dream, he speaks of the might of fantasy, a poetic force that strikes sparks of wisdom from men's minds like steel strikes sparks from flint. As Descartes tells it, those dreams changed his life. It was through those dreams that he, quote, discovered the foundations of a marvelous science, end quote. The day of his dreams, Descartes had been pondering the disunity and uncertainty of his knowledge. As if in continuation of his thinking through the day, his dreams that night seemed to show him the route to conceptual unification and certainty. The course of Descartes' life from that point on is a circuitous one, but there is one major piece of conceptual unification, crucial to our modern knowledge, for which Descartes is quite directly responsible. It's analytical geometry, our ability to treat matters of 2-dimensional space in terms of algebraic formulae. Most people are familiar with Cartesian coordinates. What those allow you to do is to convert the spatiality of a line into a simple equation. Cartesian coordinates are named after Descartes. The pursuit of certainty, of a foundation for a unified scientific philosophy as certain as mathematics, is most apparent in Descartes' meditation. Here the theme of dreams reappears. How do I know I'm not dreaming? Could this all just be a dream? In the next lecture, we'll trace the reasoning that leads him from there to I think, therefore I am. Descartes' Meditations is the source for a major philosophical position that bears his name, Cartesian dualism. Dualism is the idea that there are 2 basic kinds of things in the universe, 2 basic kinds of stuff. The physical stuff, mass, energy.
Yeah, and I
motion
should have
of
died
atoms in
right
the
there.
void, and the mental stuff, the taste of pineapple, or the feel of a frozen car handle in the morning. The physical and the mental, dualism says, are essentially different kinds of stuff. One is supremely objective. One is essentially subjective, the stuff of imagining and tasting and feeling. On the one side is the physical universe. On the other is the mental universe, the universe of how things taste and feel, the universe of consciousness. Also the universe of ideas, of imaginings, and of Descartes' dreams. Are the realms of the physical and the mental two essentially different universes? If so, how could they possibly interact? And if they're not essentially different, if there's some sense in which, say, the mental is ultimately physical, precisely how does that work?
Mhm.
Descartes' dreams invoke a central group of questions that we'll be dealing with throughout the course, questions of mind and body, or mind and brain. How could our 3-pound brains possibly produce our rich experience of the world? That's the mind-body problem, which I'll examine further in the next lecture. How could consciousness ultimately be physical? And what does it mean if it isn't? The first exhibit was a dream. The second exhibit is a brain. On April 17th, 1955, Albert Einstein checked into Princeton Hospital complaining of chest pains. He died the next morning of a burst aortic aneurysm. He was 76. The autopsy on Einstein was performed by Thomas Stoltz Harvey, a young pathologist. Einstein had left explicit directions that his remains be cremated and scattered in secret. He was used to being idolized. He hated it. He didn't want some idolization of his body to continue after his death. Despite those instructions, and despite the fact that Dr. Harvey wasn't any kind of brain specialist, he removed Einstein's brain. He also removed Einstein's eyes. He later pressed Einstein's son for permission, but only after the fact. He guaranteed him that the brain would be used solely for purposes of research and that results would be published in primary journals. Harvey gave the eyes to Einstein's ophthalmologist. They're still in a safe deposit box in New York City.
That's so creepy.
But Harvey took the brain. Upon removal, he weighed it, he photographed it, he dissected it into about 240 distinct blocks encased in a plastic-like material called celluloid. Within months, he was fired from his position at the hospital for refusing to surrender the specimen. Harvey kept Einstein's brain in the basement of his house in Princeton, but he lost his job. He was soon to lose his marriage. So he took the brain with him to a new job in a biological testing lab in Wichita, Kansas. It was kept in a cider box stashed under a beer cooler. From there, he moved to Weston, Missouri, and practiced medicine until he failed a state competency exam. He started working on an assembly line in Lawrence, Kansas, and again, he took the brain with him. When anyone asked, he would say he was studying the brain in his spare time and that he'd soon publish a report. He kept saying that for 43 years. Harvey would occasionally offer pieces of the brain to researchers. In 1985, he sent a piece to the neuroscientist Marion Diamond at UCLA, for example. In the early 1990s, Harvey returned to Princeton. He met a magazine writer named Michael Paterniti, and together they conceived the plan of a cross-country trip to California to meet Einstein's granddaughter. Einstein's brain traveled to California in the trunk of a Buick Skylark. Paterniti eventually published a book about the trip called Driving Mr. Albert. Around 1995, Harvey sent a fax to Sandra Whittleson, a neuroscientist at McMaster University, asking if she'd like a part of the brain. She'd never made such a request. She'd never met Harvey in her life.
So
Quote,
weird.
needless to say, she says, quote, it was unexpected, end quote. McMaster University now has about a fifth of Einstein's brain. And in one of the few responsible acts of his life, Thomas Stoltz Harvey then returned the remainder of Einstein's brain to the pathology department at the University Medical Center at Princeton. So what is Einstein's brain like? Did Einstein have a particularly big brain? No. His brain was in the average range, rather on the smallish side. Was there anything special about Einstein's brain? Can you look at it and see wherein his genius lay? There are some tantalizing hints that the answer might be a qualified yes. One part of Einstein's brain, you may remember, had been sent to Marion Diamond at UCLA. Her group published a study indicating that the brain had an unusually large ratio of glial cells to neurons. It's not clear that's correct. Controversy remains regarding Diamond's study. But even if it were true, we have to admit that we don't really know what it is that glial cells do. A later study by Whittleson's group at McMaster University is perhaps more interesting. What it shows is that Einstein's brain was different in terms of overall anatomy. If you put your hand above and a little behind your ears, your hand will be over your parietal lobes. Einstein's brain was within normal limits everywhere except there. There's a portion of Einstein's brain there, the inferior parietal lobe, that is 15% wider in Einstein's brain than in yours. There's a neighboring region in yours, the parietal operculum, that's missing in Einstein's brain. What it looks like is that part of his brain grew larger, taking over the area that would have been occupied by another part of the brain. That is indeed Whittleson's interpretation. That what we're seeing is an early childhood expansion of part of Einstein's brain at the cost of a neighboring region. What does that mean in terms of function? The tantalizing fact is that the area of Einstein's brain that is 15% wider is an area associated with mathematical thought, visual spatial cognition, and the imagery of movement. Einstein is known for using visual imagination to arrive at his theories. He asked, what would it be like if space-time were curved? What would it be like to ride on a ray of light? The area that's missing may be associated with speech production. We know that Einstein didn't start talking until he was 3. We know that he would obsessively repeat sentences up to the age of 7. We know that he failed the Technology Institute language exams when he was 16. Einstein always claimed that he thought visually rather than verbally, and he struggled with language throughout his adult life. There are 2 themes here that will reappear through the lectures that follow. One is brain function, that there are particular areas of our brains that are crucial for particular functions. One of the ways we know this is by the strange things that happen to cognitive processing when brains are impacted in particular areas, how damaged brains can result in fractured minds. The other theme we'll be pursuing throughout is brain plasticity, the fact that different brains can grow different capabilities in different areas. The brain, we'll see, is organized in terms of structure, but it can also modify that structure. Here, there are a whole range of questions. We think that we perceive the world a certain way, that light comes to our eyes, sends signals to our brain, and is processed in an inner theater. But do things really happen that way? Could they really happen that way? Or is the brain doing things that we don't know about? Are we interacting with the world, seeing and thinking in ways we don't even realize? Here, there are lots of surprises. Together, we will explore some of the mysteries of consciousness. So far, I've talked about Exhibit A, Descartes' dream, and Exhibit B, Einstein's brain. The third exhibit I want to offer is a piece of machinery. This one is on display at the London Science Museum. It's made of brass and steel with columns of interlocking gears. It's called a difference engine. Between 1820 and 1830, Charles Babbage drew up plans for a machine that would calculate and print tables of logarithms. He called it difference engine number 1. According to the plans, it would have had 25,000 parts. It would have been 8 feet high, 7 feet long, 3 feet deep, and would have weighed thousands of pounds. It would have been driven by steam. He got financing for it from the British government. Many of the parts were actually machined, but difference engine number 1 was never built. One of the reasons it wasn't completed is that it was so difficult at the time to machine the parts that Babbage had designed. Another reason it was never built was problems with financing. Babbage kept having to beg more money from Parliament, and his machinist was holding him over a barrel. When the last bill was paid in 1830, the total came to 17,470 pounds. The steam locomotive John Bull, built in 1831, about the same time, had cost only 784 pounds. Babbage's logarithm machine had already cost more than 20 locomotives, and it still wasn't anywhere near complete. A third reason it was never built was that Babbage came up with a different design, a better design, actually 2 designs. One was difference engine number 2. That wasn't completed in Babbage's lifetime either, but it was built by the London Science Museum in the early 1990s. That's the piece of machinery. Babbage's other design was the analytical engine. It too would have been made of steel and brass gears. It too would have been driven by steam. But the analytical engine wouldn't have been limited to merely computing logarithms. Its range would have been all of mathematics. The analytic engine would have been able to compute anything. But Babbage designed in the middle of the 19th century, well before the Civil War, well before Edison invented the light bulb, was a steam-driven, all-purpose computer. What would the world have been like had steam-driven computers been available in 1840? What if the information revolution had come simultaneously with the industrial revolution? That is, in fact, the theme of a novel by William Gibson and Bruce Sterling. What if Babbage had succeeded? The novel is called The Difference Engine. This brings up a third batch of questions we'll be addressing. Could a machine be more than a calculating device? Could a machine really think? Think creatively, for example. Could it be genuinely intelligent in the way that people are? Even further, could a machine really feel in the full sense that we feel? Could a machine be conscious? If that seems outrageous to you, let me offer you a question from Marvin Minsky, one of the pioneers of artificial intelligence. Aren't you a machine? A meat machine that thinks creatively? That is genuinely intelligent? Aren't you a machine, a meat machine that feels? What's so special about the meat? I've offered exhibits A, B, and C. The dream, the brain, and the machine is a first sketch of the kind of topics we'll be dealing with. When you ponder the relations between these, what's the relation between mind and brain? What is it about machines that would allow them to think, or would forever prevent them from real intelligence? Those are the questions in philosophy of mind. There's a further historical link between the first and the last of our exhibits, a link between Descartes and Babbage, between the dream and the machine. Toward the end of his life, René Descartes was summoned as a tutor by Queen Christina of Sweden. He boarded a ship for Sweden, even though he feared a shipwreck might cost him his life. That much is documented. The rest is reported as legend and may be impossible to document. And of course, it may not be true. The story is that Descartes had told other people on the ship that he was traveling with his daughter Francine, but no one had seen his daughter. The ship was buffeted by storms, during one of which the sailors sought Francine by creeping into Descartes' quarters. What they found was a large box, inside of which was an automaton, a life-size clockwork doll that moved, they thought, just like a real girl. Descartes' daughter was a machine. The legend continues that the superstitious sailors thought Francine was an item of black magic, with the captain ordered her thrown overboard. We do know that Descartes had attempted to build automaton, figures animated by clockwork, earlier in his life. We also know that Descartes, though he never married, did have a daughter out of wedlock. She had died of scarlet fever years before he left for Sweden. Descartes is said to have spoken of her death as the greatest sorrow of his life, and her name was Francine. That story is written in terms of minds, machines, dreams, and emotions. And we'll be talking about those too. It's clear that our topic areas are wide-ranging: minds, brains, and machines. As such, they are clearly the stuff of psychology, computer science, and the neurosciences. We will, in fact, be drawing heavily on those fields throughout the course. I want to say a bit more, however, about what makes the approach that I'll take a philosophical approach, why this is philosophy of mind. The best way to do that, I think, is with a very quick thumbnail sketch of the history of philosophy, in particular, a thumbnail sketch of the relation between philosophy and the sciences. In the beginning, there was no such distinction. Philosophy was simply the Greek for love of wisdom, and anyone who devoted themselves to wisdom, to knowledge of any kind, was called a philosopher. That's why Thales is often recorded as the first Greek scientist. He's also recorded as the first Greek philosopher. In the beginning, there was no distinction between philosophy and other disciplines. Philosopher just meant lover of wisdom, any kind of wisdom. As time went on, however, particular areas of thought became elaborated enough, or systematized enough, or established enough in other ways to peel off as distinguishable disciplines in their own right. One of the first peel off was mathematics. Pythagoras and the Pythagoreans, who gave us both the Pythagorean theorem and the existence of irrational numbers, they undoubtedly considered themselves philosophers, not mathematicians. In fact, the Pythagoreans drew no distinction between number theory, musical theory, the speculation on the role of number and harmony as basic philosophical principles in the universe. Only later, in Euclid, and interestingly enough, in the systematic axiomatization of geometry, does mathematics start to be treated as a distinct field in its own right. Now you've got philosophy here and mathematics over here. Astronomy is probably the next discipline to peel off, though in the archaic amalgam of astronomy and astrology that appears in Ptolemy. Most importantly, astronomy peels off only with a substantial step in systematization around 100 to 150 AD, Ptolemy's Almagest, and with an applicable technology of astrological prediction. Until after Isaac Newton, there's no physics. Newton thought of himself as a natural philosopher. Only with the astounding intellectual achievement of his Principia of 1687 was there a field distinct enough with its own Newtonian systematization, with its own experimental techniques, to be thought of as a separate field of physics. Usually people refer just to Newton's Principia. The full title is Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, the mathematical principles of natural philosophy. Other disciplines have peeled off in our own century. There used to be part of philosophy called philosophy of man. With the development of ethnographic techniques in the early 20th century, and with its own smatterings of theory, philosophy of man became the science of anthropology. The key here is the same throughout. Once an area has some real systematization, agreed theoretical basics, and/or experimental techniques, it becomes a science on its own. But here are also more ambiguous cases. Some of what used to be called social philosophy, as in social and political philosophy, part of that's now called sociology, but not all of it. It was essentially the agreed parts, pursuable by agreed techniques, that became the science of sociology. The controversial parts, especially about social values, those remained as part of philosophy. Much the same happened with philosophy of language. Some of that became linguistics, a science in its own right, but there are plenty of questions that remain. It was only the easy and systematizable questions that became the science of linguistics. The story is essentially the same in that part of philosophy called philosophy of mind. William James taught philosophy at Harvard from the 1880s to 1907. He's, of course, known as a proponent of philosophical pragmatism. But it was through his influence that parts of philosophy of mind started to be seen as developed enough to count as a science, the science of psychology. James once said, "The first lecture in psychology that I ever heard was when I delivered." William James published The Principles of Psychology in 2 volumes in 1890. It still reads as half philosophy, half psychology. William James was a philosopher and psychologist. His brother Henry James, the novelist. But The Principles of Psychology was so well written with such literary flair that people quipped that William James was the real novelist of the 2 brothers, a novelist who wrote about psychology. Henry's novels, on the other hand, are known for their deeply psychological insight. He was a psychologist who wrote novels. A publisher convinced William James to create a shorter book to use as a classroom text, which came out as Psychology, the Briefer Course. The original longer book became known as the James. The briefer course became known as the Jimmy. That was the birth of psychology. About the same time in Europe, the break between the philosophy of mind and what was conceived of as the science of mind took the form of psychoanalysis. Freud's first book on aphasia was published in 1891. The term psychoanalysis was coined in 1896. And later, with somewhat different histories, neurophysiology and neuropsychology became established as sciences. The story throughout is the same. The easier stuff becomes the science, the stuff that's more readily systematized and that yields to experimental technique. The harder stuff is the questions that are not only unanswered, but that we're not even sure how to answer. Those are the fundamentally controversial bits, areas in which we're not even sure what basic theory should look like. Those are the areas in which we don't yet even quite know what we don't know. All of that remains part of philosophy. That's the philosophy of mind. The goal of philosophy of mind is a unified understanding of mind and its place in the world. The focus is on conceptual clarification, the disentangling of complex questions, and the careful examination of alternative approaches. Its major tool is rational argument. Philosophy has always thrived on controversy. One goal of this course is to clarify the core areas of controversy in philosophy of mind. What are the arguments behind dualism that have led most contemporary philosophers to reject it? What is it that we see when we see color? Are there reasons to think that consciousness is forever beyond the reach of science? I'll sometimes be arguing for a particular approach to questions like these, but I'll never be laying down a single dogmatic answer. In each case, I'll be trying to capture the excitement of intellectual controversy by laying out issues in terms of a range of intellectual options and alternatives. Here's a rough roadmap for the course. The first 6 lectures will lay out basic concepts, classical theories, current hypotheses in philosophy of mind. Functionalism has emerged as a dominant trend in current research, and we'll follow its lead in the next 6 lectures. Those concentrate on perception, our conceptions of ourselves, and minds as they function in the world. Real robots play an interesting role in that exploration. In a third section of the course, I'll focus on questions of intelligence, yours and mine, but also the idea of artificial intelligence, just how much alike and just how different are brains and computers. The final 6 lectures of the course focus on subjective experience and the continuing mystery of consciousness. At every point, I'll be talking about philosophical theories, but also about the structure of brains and the most recent data from the neuroscience. At every point, I'll be raising psychological questions, but also bringing in issues from robotics and the history of smart machines. Contemporary philosophy of mind is actively interdisciplinary, and it's from the cross-fertilization of these different fields that some of the most interesting perspectives often arise. I'll be drawing examples from literature, from the arts, and from the movies and the history of film, from Fritz Lang's Metropolis to Bogart and Bacall and To Have and Have Not, to Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator, Harrison Ford in Blade Runner. We'll be doing it all. The exhibits I've tried to show you, the dream, the brain, the machine, are emblematic of precisely those kinds of questions. Questions about minds, brains, and machines for which we don't have solid theory or experimental techniques. These are the questions about minds, brains, and machines for which we do not even know yet quite how to look for answers. There is, by the way, one piece of equipment you'll need for this course. In order to do philosophy of mind, you'll have to get hold of a mind. Well, isn't that lucky? You already have a mind. You therefore have the necessary prerequisites for the course. That's not a very good joke, but it does highlight something that'll come up again and again in our book. In order to do philosophy of mind, you need a mind in 2 senses. What we're talking about is the mind, so you'll need a mind to examine in the same way you'd examine language and philosophy of language, or politics and political philosophy. The mind is the object of our study. Call that the objective side. But of course, you couldn't philosophically examine anything without a mind. It's the necessary tool for any examination at all. So it's you, with your mental equipment, that is subjecting this thing to study. You're the subject as well. In this discipline, unavoidably, your mind is both subject and object. That may be part of what makes some of these questions so interesting. It may also be part of what makes them so hard. In the next lecture, I'll dive right into one of the central issues, the mind-body. I used our first lecture to give an outline of the kinds of topics we'd be covering in this. I used 3 exhibits, a dream, a brain, and a machine. A problem that came up clearly to the fore in that discussion was the mind-body problem. That's a problem that we'll be tracking throughout the course in one way or another, in our philosophical guide, the psychological guide, in the guise of computer science, and in terms of the neuroscience. In this lecture, I'll tackle the mind-body problem head-on in terms of a position called dualism. I want to start with 5 obvious philosophical facts, or at least what seem to be obvious philosophical facts. These are things that just about everybody believes. These are even pre-philosophical facts in a sense. Everybody thinks they're true even before they start doing philosophy. Here they are. Philosophical fact number 1, you have a mind, you also have a body. Philosophical fact number 2, normally, hopefully, these work together. When you die, they won't. When you die, we'll have a dead body on our hands, your dead body. At that point, one of 2 things might happen, and here people disagree. Some people think your mind will continue without your body. It'll then be a disembodied mind, or a disembodied spirit.
What the hell is that dude up there?
You cease to exist. We'll have nothing but a dead body on our hands. Your mind will no longer exist. There'll be no more you. We don't have to settle that dispute here.
I have no idea what's going on there.
Hopefully, and while you're alive, your mind and body will. Philosophical fact number 3, your body is physical. It's made of matter, physical stuff, and it occupies space. Because of that, what you do with your body is something other people can observe. If you raise your arm, people can see it. If you turn sideways, that's the kind of thing people can see. If you shout, it can be heard. The things that bodies do are like that. Bodies are physical, space-filling things, observable in the same way other physical, space-filling things are. We can put it this way. The realm of bodily behavior is publicly observable. Philosophical fact number 4 is the other side of this coin. What you do with your mind, in contrast, may not be publicly observable. Imagine a sunset. Imagine it in full color, in great detail. Now, you may see that sunset in your mind, but we don't. What you see, your mental image, is not publicly accessible. Your mental life is essentially private. Here's another example. When you're in pain, even excruciating pain, that's just your pain. You might express your pain by some public and physical way, by moaning, for example, so that we become aware that you're in pain. But no matter how sympathetic we are, we don't literally feel your pain. Unlike the physical realm, the mental realm is not publicly observable. You can mentally picture things that are essentially private or inner. You can also mentally do things that we can't see. You can add 2 numbers in your head. You can make plans for the future. As long as you don't tell us, we can't get to those. Philosophical fact number 5. The mental realm, then, is somehow private. Something that goes along with that is what's called privileged access. Suppose there are three of us in the room. I'm sitting with Jim and Mary. Nobody's hidden. We're just sitting in the open and talking. And suppose I ask both Jim and Mary how many chairs there are in the room. Is there any reason for me to think that one of their responses is going to be more accurate than the other? No. How many chairs there are in the room is an observable, physical fact. Both Jim and Mary have access to that fact. I have no reason to believe that one of them is going to give me a more reliable report than the other. Now, suppose I ask Mary whether her right knee itches. Independently, somehow simultaneously, I also ask Jim whether Mary's right knee itches. Mary tells me her knee itches. Jim tells me that it doesn't. Whose testimony should I take regarding Mary's itches? Jim's or Mary's? Or suppose that I ask them both whether right now Jim feels a little pain in his lower right molar. Jim says he doesn't. Mary says he does. Whose testimony should I take as to whether Jim has a toothache? Jim's or Mary's? Jim's, obviously. Why? Because he knows whether he has a toothache a lot better than anybody else does. Some people have characterized this in terms of our privileged access to our own mental realm, to the contents of our own minds. It's your mind, mental stuff is internal, and nobody else can get in there. You're the one who knows. Some people have thought that what this gives you is not only privileged access, but infallibility, that you can't be wrong about your knee itches, or your headaches, or your toothaches. The idea is that this can't happen. Oh, I'm in terrible pain. Oh, no, I guess not. How silly of me. My mistake. The claim is that you can't make mistakes about that kind of stuff. You can't be wrong about your own mental realm. Whether the infallibility claim is true or not, you get the general idea of privileged access. We have then 5 obvious philosophical facts. Let's reiterate. You have a mind and a body. Normally, hopefully, they work together. The body is physical and so publicly observable. The realm of the mental, in contrast, is private. And finally, it's you who have privileged access to the contents of your own mind. Those are claims regarding minds and bodies that just about everyone thinks are true. Why do we think they are? Some have proposed that these are the legacy of philosophical theories of the past that have somehow trickled down and become part of common sense. Bertrand Russell speaks of common sense as the metaphysics of the Stone Age. And perhaps these are common conceptions that are a legacy from the philosophical views of, well, not exactly the Stone Age, but maybe the Renaissance. The road between philosophy and common sense runs in both directions, however. The work of philosophers and other thinkers can trickle down to become common sense. But philosophers often do their best work by making concepts explicit that are already part of common sense, by developing and sharpening ways people already tend to think of minds and bodies, for example. And my guess is that these philosophical facts were sharpened and formalized in philosophical work, but that they were part of common ways of thinking long before that. There's also the possibility that some of these obvious philosophical facts aren't true. That's still up for grabs. In the course of these lectures, we'll be looking at some of the conceptual problems that our pre-philosophical views can lead us into, whatever there is. At certain points, I'll introduce you to some reasons to think that we should perhaps abandon or qualify one or more of these conceptions in minds and bodies. For now, I want to do something different. Let's suppose that these 5 claims are precisely what they appear to be, obvious philosophical facts. Let's see what follows if they are. If these claims are true, what must the universe be like? What must the universe be like in order for minds and bodies to work this way? Here's the simplest theory of the universe that fits with all of these. It's a theory called dualism. This is a philosopher's theory. In the form I'll outline it, it's Descartes' theory. But it's not just a philosopher's theory. In a broad outline, this is precisely the way most people think about people, minds, and bodies. The simplest story we tend to tell is a dualist story. Here's the basic dualist picture. There are really 2 radically different halves of the universe, the physical realm and the mental realm. The physical realm contains all the physical things, the things composed of matter. These are the things that have physical dimension, length, height, depth. Descartes speaks of this as extension. These are the things that exist at particular places, at particular times, that occupy space. They're governed by the laws of physics. Your body is a physical thing, something with extension that occupies space. Your body is part of the physical universe. But there are also things in the universe that are essentially mental. The way things look to you, the way they appear in your imagination, the mental calculations you do when figuring something out. Your thoughts, your hopes, your emotions, your imaginings, and your consciousness. Consider a can of pineapple. The can itself, made of metal, and its physical contents, that stuff inside with a particular acidic pH. All of that is part of the physical universe. But the taste of pineapple is something different. It's something essentially mental. You can imagine how pineapple tastes right now. And in doing so, you are accessing the mental side of the universe. This is substance dualism. In more highfalutin and traditional terminology, the position is that there are two essentially different substances in the universe, the mental and the physical.
Oh shit!
Substance
I'm
dualism
not.
fits our obvious philosophical facts to a T. The physical is the objective stuff of the universe. The mental is the essentially subjective realm. The physical is something that exists independently of us, publicly observable by all, and about which we can be wrong. The mental is a private and internal realm to which only we have access, and about which we cannot be wrong in the same way. Descartes holds precisely that view. Substance dualism is also called Cartesian dualism. Your body is part of the physical universe. Your mind is something essentially different, part of a very different universe, the universe of mental phenomena. Descartes' Meditations were first translated into English with a very appropriate subtitle: 6 Metaphysical Meditations wherein it is proved that there is a God and that man's mind is really distinct from his body. Descartes didn't just have a position. Like any philosopher worth his salt, he also offered logical arguments for that position. Reasons, beyond just intuitive philosophical facts, or the fact that everyone believes something like this. Descartes offered reasons for thinking that this is what the universe really has to be like. I'm going to focus on just one argument for dualism. I think it's Descartes' best argument, if it really is Descartes. Finding this argument in Descartes' text is actually very difficult. It's attributed to Descartes by one of his contemporary critics, by Antoine Arnaud. In the end, what I'm offering as Descartes' best argument may actually be Arnaud's. What we care about, however, isn't where an argument comes from. What we care about is how good it is and what it shows. And this is a powerful argument for dualism. If it works, the argument really has 2 conclusions. One conclusion is that mind and body really are 2 different things, that your mind is in no way the same thing as your body, nor the same thing as any part of your body. Your mind could not possibly be your brain. The second conclusion is that what's essential to you is not your body, but your mind. The argument's a complicated one. It demands an experiential journey of a certain sort. So sit back and let the argument flow over you. Crucial to the argument is a basic philosophical principle that's most...
All right. It is time for me to end the stream, but I appreciate you watching. I just want to give you a heads up that tomorrow Devon is going to be hosting a live stream at 5 p.m. He talks all about games, movies, the culture from a blurred perspective. It's pretty fun, and I hope you'll join us. And again, thank you for watching M3 Gaming. I will catch you later.